first time here, my name is Day, and if you like these types of videos, go ahead and subscribe and join the family. For those of you who have been here, thank you guys so much for coming back to see me again and joining me for another Loc Talk Day Locs video. So I'm in the corner once again, hiding from the sun, because as you can guess, I have waited again to sunset to film. And the sunset's so early now, it's only 4 o'clock, but I had to get this video out. I had to film it before the day was over, because I didn't want like days to pass, before I could film again. Because this question, guys, I just have to answer it once and for all. Aside from how many locks do you have, I feel like this is my second most asked question. And if you still don't know how many locks I have, it's 52, but we'll talk about that in another video. We'll talk about why that really doesn't matter in another video. But my second most asked question is, Day, should I, and they sent a picture of their hair, should I comb out my locks? Here are my questions. Here's what I want. Here's what I've done. Do you think I should start over? Get that question all the time, and I definitely get it. Obviously, me being someone who has started their locks over, I can see why people would think that I would have an answer for them, because like I said, I cut my locks off. I waited maybe 2 years or so, and then I started my locks again. So I've been there, so I definitely get it. I totally get it. I do want to say though, when I cut my hair, I didn't comb out my locks and try to start my locks over with that hair. I shaved everything, grew more hair, and started from there. So there are some differences, but a lot of people ask me, should I comb out the set that I already have and start over? So first and foremost, I'm gonna say this, just to clear up my opinions on the topic. If you are under a year locked, if you have not had any traumatic experiences with your locks, and when I say traumatic, I mean you haven't bleached them to the point that they're getting very like brittle and thinning and things like that. What else is there? You haven't those are pretty much the main things, unless you've done something traumatic to your hair where it's like this is beyond saving. I'm probably not going to tell you to start over, and let me tell you why. A lot of times people get stuck in whatever phase of locks they're in, and it's typically around the time where people's locks get a little fuzzy, get a little crazy, it starts to look a certain way. Then some people are like, man, maybe I should have started with less locks, or maybe I should have started with more locks, or maybe if I did this differently, my locks would have come out different. And for those of you who have, are starting your journey for the first time, it's really interesting to see how your hair transitions from natural to locked. And some people think that their hair is gonna look a certain way, and it doesn't. And why I usually tell people don't comb out their hair just yet is because your hair goes through so many changes from month 1 to month 12. And honestly, even after that, so you may think that at 6 months what your locks are gonna look like, and you don't. Like, you really don't. After a year, they're gonna look completely different again. So much happens to them. So it's hard to tell, that early on whether you should give up on your journey, comb them out, and start again. Another reason why a lot of people ask, should they start over their journey, is because they feel like their lock number is off in accordance to what they want. And my response to that is, unless you are going for a completely different type of locks, like say for instance you have traditional locks and you really decide that you want micro locks, okay, I think that's that's justified. You should probably start over. However, if you want to go from one set of traditional locks to another set of traditional locks, and you think that if you have 10 less locks or 10 more locks, your hair will look completely different, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. And take it from me, I had probably about 20 to 30 more locks in my last journey, maybe 20, closer to 20. Even though there are subtle differences between this journey and the last, I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised how similar my journeys look. Like, honestly, because it has more to do with your texture and your hair type than how many locks you have. There are people on YouTube and Instagram who are like, lock influencers or whatever, whose hair is way thicker than mine. And some of them have double my lock count just because they have thicker hair. So it just wouldn't be wise for someone who is desiring a certain look to comb out their hair and start over if you are going for a type of locks that your hair just is not, just doesn't have the capacity to look like. And that's like a whole different topic. Sometimes we have to understand that, you know, our hair is not going to look a certain way. It doesn't matter what we do to it. It doesn't matter what I do to my hair. It's not going to look like super thick, super full, just because I don't have that type of hair. And that's okay. It's nothing wrong with that. But I just don't want people to go about, if I comb out my locks and start over, will this fix the issue? Because most of the times it won't, unless you did something like terribly wrong. Most of the times it won't fix the issue, and it's more a matter of you have to accept your journey, you have to accept your hair type, you have to understand how locks work, that sort of thing. Because I've had people also ask me, should I start my hair over because my locks are so frizzy, and they're so poofy, so I feel like, you know, if I had more locks, it wouldn't be so poofy or big, you know. And you'd be surprised, okay? You really will be surprised how similar your journeys honestly will look. Another reason why some people want to comb out their locks is because of like the grid or like their parts. And if you are focused on parts, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I always say in the lock journey, you really shouldn't be focused on parts too much because locks are messy by nature. That is just how they are. And sometimes your locks, like the parts and stuff, they shift, which is so crazy. Like after 6 years or so, you will realize some of your locks, the parting shifts. So it's kind of one of those things where locks is something that some people, especially if you're new to the journey, you will try to control it, and it is nothing you can do to control them. Like you start how you want to start, you do what you can, you cope with it, but really you just have to understand that there's like freedom and not really focusing on the small details, you know what I mean, of your hair. Like try to tap into that freedom of it's not a big deal, it's my hair, I love it, you know, and kind of move on. So that is my advice to you, because usually people who are dealing with these issues really have a problem with the starter lock stage, and I don't want you to have to go through that twice for no reason. Just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think down below. I know there are some people who did maybe start their locks over. You realize you wanted, I know a lot of people who started their locks over because they wanted cis locks, and I think that that's like something that obviously, you know, it makes sense. But if you started your locks over, comment down below. Let me know what your experience was. Maybe it is different from my experience. But thank you guys so much for joining me for another video, and I will see you guys in my next one.